Hello?
Yes, we're good. Thanks, Henk.
Yeah, okay. I can start?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, then I've prepared a program so-called about Lavrion. I've been there 4 times by now. We plan to go every second year. That means Jacques Fay, a few other friends, and myself. And our next planning would be this May, but well, due to Corona, that won't be possible, I'm afraid. So whenever we get the chance, we will go back there because there's a lot of possibility to find to do good finds. I start with some history. In ancient times, the region of Lavrion was the largest European mining area. And there are remnants found from about 3000 BC, that's in the early Bronze Age, with the heydays between 500 and 200 BC. The last mine closed in 1977, but everything was reopened or remined again, let's say from about 1870. And the most important ores were silver, lead, and zinc. And if you look at the data, the area is about 200 square kilometers. There's literally, it's scattered with mines, shafts, and dumps. And in the course of centuries, I would say, there's an estimate that about 8,400 metric tons of silver have been extracted, over 2 million of lead, and even at the moment there's 1.5 million cubic meters of dumps and slags available. The mines are all closed. You can get in, but if you do that, you should only do it with professional guides because it's very dangerous. It's prohibited also, but it's very dangerous. So you really have to do you have to know what you do. So don't go in there by yourselves. There's a lot of and enough dumps and slags that can fulfill your whole holiday if you want to go there for mineral hunting. Until now, there are 732 minerals and varieties listed, and well, as far as I can see, there's still counting. There are new ones described regularly, so the end is not in sight yet. This is Attica. Attica is the peninsula on the south side of Athens. If you follow the mouse, oh, stop. Back. If you follow the mouse, then Athens is here. This is the international airport, and from the airport to Lavrion, that's down here, that's about 60 kilometers. So for us, it's very convenient. We can fly from here directly to Athens, and within a few hours later, we're at the destination, and that makes it very easy to go there. The scenery is great. This is the place where we stay. This is the garden of our apartment building, so you don't have to complain about anything. The sea is everywhere. It's always close by. It's never far away. This is a temple, chapel that these are still built. This is a relatively new one, and I think it's for the Greek Orthodox religion. And the Temple of Poseidon, that's in the very south, at the Sunian point, you could say. That's the landmark and a point of recognition for all tourists that go there. If you want to go, if you never have been to Lavrion and you want to go there, I can only advise you to start with the museum, museus, that is what the sign says here. And there's two museums. The one is in Lavrion itself, and this one is in Kamarica. The building on the left is how it looks. And they are a pleasure to visit because they have a lot of nice stuff that you can look at. But the most important aspect, I think, is that you have the opportunity to meet local collectors who will treat you immediately as an old friend and give you all the information that you wish for. So if you've never been there and you want to go, go to the museum and make new friends, and that will help you on the way. The mines, I've been to the most known mines, but there are many more. Lots of them are unknown, undescribed. And for instance, if you take the road from Sunion, that's down here, to Kamarica, that's up here, this is the road, or this one maybe. Then just along the road, you see a lot of holes, ditches, etc. And all of those can contain collectible minerals. So I have a few which I just picked up along the road and which are not described at any place, but they're just lying around there. And it's very rich. You see the mines here. Kamarica is up here. Esperanza is a mine. Now, well, there are a lot of, let's say that 6 mines are the most visited. That's up here in the region of Kamarica, and it's down here in the region of Sunion. Sunion is the southern part. If you want to go to the dumps, Kamarica is the largest. This is about, I guess, about 1 kilometer long. So it's a gathering point of all the remains from the Kamarica mines. So you never know exactly where everything comes from, because if you find it on dumps, it can come from all the mines in the region. Kilometer 3, that's 3 kilometers outside Lavrion, is one of the still good accessible sites. Esperanza, if you ever want to get dirty, then go there, because everything is covered in thick layers of iron oxides, rust that is, because this is a mine that is for the largest part, it's iron, what has been found there. And Sunion, as I said, it's in the middle, it's in the southern hills, and in summer it's very hot and very dry. And there is no living soul, and there's no way that you can get water or something. So I would suggest to go there in spring, because then the temperature is reasonable, about 25 degrees. But if you go in the middle of the summer, I think that you will melt. The minerals, as I said, it's not always certain where exactly they come from, because they're all gathered on the dumps. So the presentation is not on mines in order of the mines, but in alphabetical order. Many of them are analyzed, but not all. Some are named by Greek collector friends, and some are interpreted by myself. As you see, as always, all photos are by myself, and all the samples are from my collection. And I bought some in local shops. I got a lot of things from my Greek collector friends. And what you're going to see now is about 50 species in some 90 slides. To start with, adamite is one of the most widespread minerals in the Lavrion region. It's basically colorless, but it takes different colors if contaminated with other elements. Copper and nickel give green, aluminum gives blue, cobalt gives pink, manganese gives purple. Adamite is an arsenate and is often accompanied by other arsenates like konichalcite or olivenite, and I'll come to that later. The yellowish color of this one is due to iron contamination. The crystal drawing shows the basic structure of the adamite. So you can see that in the upper left of the specimen. And the little triangle, you could say, on the left side is one of the basic marks of this species. Then this one is a detail from the last. As you can see, here the mine is mentioned because I know it comes from there, because this is a piece that I got from some of my friends there. But if I don't know where it comes from, it's always said Cameroon dumps or Sunion dumps, and that's the stuff that I found by myself. So this one I got from one of the friends there. Okay. Then agadite is an REE mineral, rare earth elements. In Lavrion there are 4 different agadites. And this is the cerium variety, agadite CE. That's especially abundant in the Christiana mine. But all 4 occur in the Hilarion mine. And distinction, of course, only by formal analysis, that the color differences can be a clue, which is never sure, but you can think in a specified direction. And agadite CE is in the Christiana very often accompanied by azurite, the blue, of course, malachite and olivenite. And I think that makes a nice colorful combination, which gives you a very nice composition of different minerals. Alas, I have no analyzed agadite LA, it's lanthanum, but I can show you agadite ND, that's neodymium, of course, and agadite Y, that's yttrium, which comes in the next slide. All 4 occur together on the surface of just a few meters next to each other on level 4 of the mine, and this one is analyzed. So this is really neodymium. This one is not formally analyzed, but according to my Greek expert friends, it could be LA or ND, one of 2. And in the background, you see malachite. This is from the Hilarion mine. And all the agadites that I have, except the CE variety, come from there, from the same level 4. The color of this one is more bluish, and that's in, well, let's say a preliminary characteristic for agadite yttrium. And there's, of course, there's no guarantee, but this one at least is an analyzed specimen. This is analyzed too. But now I have to make a remark. Research shows that a lot of agadites don't have any rare element in their grid at all, but Ca also, so calcium instead of that. And so those should be called agadite Ca, but that's already better known as zalesiite. Hence, without full analysis, all agadites should be named zalesiite. That's what I read last week. Annabergite, if you want that, then the kilometer 3 mine just outside Lavrion is the place to be. And when we were there in 2019, one of our Greek friends told us that material from this mine was recently used for the roadworks, and that there was lying around, and a lot of it filled with annabergites. And he brought us to the spot, and indeed we found dozens of great annabergite specimens. And here are some of them. So this is, let's say, just a few single ones. And this one is very rich. The yellow accompanying stuff is another nickel carbonate, that's gaspiite. And at this site, at kilometer 3, the two are very often each other's companion. So yellow and green go together. This is peculiar. It's anabagite with smithsonite bulbs on top, and this is the only one I ever saw. But yeah, well, this makes a nice combination. It's very unexpected. Then we come to Arsenio siderite. This is from the dumps. It's quite abundant there, but it's often overlooked or thought to be limonite. And mostly Arsenio siderite forms crusts on that cover limonite matrix. The visual distinction, if possible, that is possible because Arsenio siderite shows a much more shiny luster, whereas the limonite is dull and earthy. But I think that it's very, in practice, all these crusts are so much alike that it's very hard to establish exactly what it is. This one, I have my doubts. I wrote a question mark. I got this one in the shop in Lavrion, so I hope it's correct. But I think, to me, this looks much more like a crandallite with some coverage on it, some coating on it, because the color and the overall round shape is Arsenio siderite, but I'm very doubtful about the platy-looking crystals. So I would think that this is some form of crandallite. Arsenio goyazite, I found it on the dumps, but it should come from the Christiana because it's not mentioned anywhere else as far as I know. And the slightly bluish color of the balls is a benchmark. And of course, you always doubt whether or not it is goyazite or crandallite or whatever. Arsenio goyazite is the best possible guess I can make. The next slide is a detail from the same sample as the last one. So, and here the bluish color is even more clear. Now we come to calcite from the Lavrion. It's a secondary mineral that always grows close to the surface. And is often accompanied by malachite, azurite, smithsonite. And the deep blue color of this one is less usual than the light blue mother of pearl-like color of most of the other calcites. So this is a very nice specimen, which I didn't find myself. I got it once again from one of my friends there, but it's from the Lavrion mine. This is a nice combination. From the one who gave it to me, he told me that this is our calcite, the blue blades, of course, but the bed is some fluffy woodwardite. And yeah, well, I don't know exactly what woodwardite is, but this seems to be the background in this photo. Austenite. The problem here is the distinction with adamite. Austenite is the same as adamite plus calcium. This adamite plus Ca is austenite. Both are orthorhombic, as you can see in the pictures, in the drawings. The left drawing is adamite, the right one is austenite. So you have to check the difference in tops to make the distinction. And there's an old issue of Lapis magazine that explains the whole somewhere in the 90s. So if you have access to that, then you can look up the article. But this is the difference. There is also a difference in color, but that's not very reliable, of course. the best thing to do is look at the tops of the crystals and faces. Azurite, one of the, as usual, one of the most appealing and widespread minerals of the oxidation zones. In Lavrion, the crystals are mostly small, but come in a variety of shapes and forms. And when protected in the cavity, they are very shiny and very lustrous. And they make very nice samples. The greenish stuff is iodide, of course. And yeah, the matrix, I think it should be called gossamer, I think. Azurite and malachite often go together, of course, also from the Christiana. And I bought one piece in the shop in Lavrion, which has olivenite, azurite, malachite, agadite from the Christiana of about 30 centimeters in diameter, and I'm still working to divide that in small pieces. Because every inch of it is covered with these combinations of crystals. Barite, I found this one on the Sunium dams. Several decades ago, red barites were abundantly found in Paleocamaritsa, that's north of Lavrion. But in the more southern parts, barite is much rarer, and actually this is the only one I've ever found in 2005. And you see that it's very, very small, so it's just 0.5 millimeter. This is the next doubtful case. Brine youngite occurs in just a few mines, most abundant in the Esperanza. I got this one on a Micromount exchange on a fair in Belgium, labeled as brine youngite. But my personal opinion is that it's likely to be gibbsite. The mother of pearl luster is a mark of brine youngite as well as gibbsite. But where brine youngite forms elongated blades in radiated groups, gibbsite forms crystals in this rounded platy habit. So I would, well, I guess that this is gibbsite and not brine youngite. Then brochantite and malachite are visually hard to keep apart. And even more in the wide variety of forms that both minerals take here in this region. But there are visible differences. When you look closely, you see that the end faces of the crystals are of a darker green than the green along the C-axis. And that should give you a clue that it's very probably brochantite. And the next one is a good example of another difference with malachite. Look at the crystal group down in the middle here, this one. Besides the darker green of the end faces, you can see triangular shapes. And that's, as far as I know, a second mark of brochantite instead of malachite. And the bed, once again, is agatite, of course. This is a brochantite of a somewhat different, more unusual color. Not a photoflaw, it's the real color of the specimen. And I don't know what causes the shift, but this is really as it looks. Then calcite on a bed of gypsum. On a black background that gives you a photo with a high contrast. And calcite, as you might expect, is widespread and occurs in all the mines. And this is the dog tooth variety. And on the next slide, this is the, you could always see the Iceland variety that occurs mostly in the Esperanza mine. And then in huge quantities. Sorry. Long prismatic crystals of cerussite on a limonite matrix that makes it plausible, though I found it in 2019 on the dumps, that the location of origin is Plaka. Plaka is the north of Lavrion. That differs a little bit from the cerussite on the next slide. The cerussite is the same, of course, but the matrix is quite different. Quartz, fluorite, and other lead minerals as galena and phosgenite. And I found this one in 2005 on the slopes of a place called Vunos Michaeli. And Vunos, it's Greek for a mountain, so this is mountain. This is Michael's mountain. It's not mentioned in Mindot or in any other database. It's in the very south of the peninsula, so it's even on the south side of Sunium. And phosgenite from the same find I'll show you later in this presentation. There's not much to tell about this one. It's analyzed, so I'm sure that it's chalcoalumite. But there's a lot of stuff that you can confuse it with. Well, if you don't analyze this, then you never know what it is. Extremely high luster, nearly impossible to photograph. I have dozens of those, and very abundant in the Esperanza mine. You could think that it's hematite, but that doesn't occur there. So everyone has assured me that this is chalcophanite, but there's always a risk of confusing it with other manganese minerals. But it's very hard to make good pictures of it, so I keep trying. This is another one. The shape of the habitus is quite different, but it's assured that this also is chalcophanite. Chenevixite is I found on the dumps, and these things are very small because you see that the field of view is only 0.6 of a millimeter. So the crystal is very small, and the habit and the color are unmistakably that of chenevixite, and most likely it's a pseudomorphosis after olivenite. One of the most abundant of all in Lavrion is konichalcite, one of the arsenids, and therefore it's very often associated with adamite. The green balls are just one of the habits. There are slight color differences. They are very nice to make photographs of. This one is from the Lavrion mine. The next one is also from the Lavrion. And this is the only specimen of konichalcite with elongated crystals that I've ever seen. And, well, there's no doubt that it's konichalcite, but the shape is quite peculiar. Another fine piece. This is from the Christiana. Yeah, well, these things are beauty in itself. So I love it as a photograph object. The last one, this one I found myself. It's of course two conic calcite crystals, probably on a calcite which is covered by manganese, but that's my own interpretation. But the contrast is very nice to look at, I think. We go to copper-bearing adamite from the Lavrion line. I said that the green color of adamite is caused by copper or by nickel, but the nickel variety is much paler green, while the copper-bearing variety is much brighter. So this is copper-bearing adamite. That's also the official name. I think that in earlier days the name Cuprian adamite was used, but now it's officially copper-bearing adamite. As I said, the blue color is caused by aluminum, but not in this case. This is an analyzed specimen. We should think that it's aluminum-bearing adamite, but it's not. It's still copper-bearing, which has been said to me strictly by the very reliable source in Greece who gave me this thing. It's an analyzed specimen. Cuprite, most cuprites in Lavrion are covered with malachite, and so fresh, shiny red ones are an exception. This photo could be better, but it's very. It's one of the photos that I made quite a long time ago, so I think I have to make a new one. In any case, freestanding cuprite crystals like this and the one on the next slide, you see this, are wanted objects because mostly they are covered in malachite. Most Develine comes from the Jean-Baptiste mine. It's easy identifiable because always in association with gypsum and sometimes by katinosite. And I have a piece about 10 centimeters where you can see a lot of gypsum crystals. And in fact, I think that these tiny things here in the middle are probably very small gypsum crystals. I think, I'm not sure. This is also from the Jean-Baptiste mine. The brown balls are native arsenic. Don't ask me why, but this is also from there. This is an old specimen from 20 years ago, I think. Then we come to diftite. The problem here is that diftite forms a series with conic calcite, and that's often in the vicinity, so it's hard to make the distinction between the two. The formula is the same, except that pure conic calcite bears calcium, where diftite bears Pb, so lead. So precise determination is only possible by chemical analysis. But the color hue makes me believe that this one is more in the direction of diftite, for what that is worth, of course. Kilometer 3 is the only place in Greece where glaucospherite is reported, and I found this one there in 2019. It's a nickel copper carbonate. It's always in the vicinity of anabagite, and the smooth, shiny surface is the most clear aspect of glaucospherite. And on the next slide, you see a larger piece of the same specimen, but this one is yellow because it's probably covered by jaspyite. And jaspyite, as I said before, is a nickel carbonate also, so that makes a lot of sense. It's always in each other's vicinity. Goethite, goethite of course is quite widespread, but these crystal balls are a mark of the Esperanza mine, and it is mostly associated with quartz. And this one is, I think, is nice to look at, but the next one is one of my personal favorites because this is very aesthetic, I think. And it took some time to get this photo good enough, because these balls are very small, of course. And, it took some effort before I got it right. Then, at first thought I thought this to be heterolite because it's trigonal outline up here. But my experts in Lavrion have judged that this is goethite pseudomorph limonite. And on the Sunion domes it lies all around. You can pick it up in large quantities, in large pieces. But it's mostly it's grown into the matrix, that's quartz, I think. So freestanding loose crystals are not too easy to find. So this is quite a good find. On the domes of the Sunion mines, hemimorphite is very much present in great crystals and great crystal groups. I found literally dozens of them. I still have a box full of stuff that contained them. I found them all in 2019 on the Sunion dumps. So it's not clear from which mine they exactly come, but it's probably the Russian mine. And you see a few examples of this, of hemimorphite. And I could make 20 more photos of this stuff if I wanted to, because it was so abundant in 2019 that I have a bucket full. This one is easily overlooked because you look at the size of the photo, just 0.5 millimeter. This is heterolite. The tiny things on the top, these triangles, these trigonal crystals, are heterolite, and they always are in association with the chalcophanite. And the Greek word heteros means companion, and that's the name. They are named so because it nearly always is in the companion of chalcophanite. And as you can see, the individual crystals are very small, so they are indeed easily overlooked. You have to be aware that you can find them, because if you don't know, I think that you just don't see them. That's so small as they are. The Lavrion mine is, of course, the type locality for Hilarionite. And it's also the only place where it's found ever. It's very soft, the hardness on the Mohs scale of just 2. So it's very sensitive. If you don't handle it with the utmost care, then it will just fall off the matrix. So this one is a valuable specimen because it survived all the hazards from finding it, extracting it, and transporting it to my basement. But to make things even more complicated, there's also a mineral called kankite. It's K-A-N-K, kankite. that looks the same, is almost the same. It only lacks the SO4 in the formula, so the sulfate. And it also occurs in the hilarion. So I can only hope that my specimen is analyzed properly. I got this from one of the vendors in Greece, and I hope that it says that he knows what he was doing. But I call it hilarionite, but there is some doubt on it. This will always stay a little questionable. Hollandite, coronadite, cryptomaline are all isostructural. But because hollandite is described as being the most abundant in the Esperanza mine, I named these as such without fully analyzing them all, because there are dozens of those. And they're all ball shaped with spikes in gray and all sorts of environment also. Because this one is on siderite, also from the Esperanza. And this one also. And I think these make nice pictures. But if you have to analyze them all, then you can well, you have a lot of work to do. Then jarosite, the trigonal shape, and the matrix of iron-bearing minerals makes this one jarosite. It's a tiny but perfect crystal. The yellow coating on the matrix is probably kamaritzaite. Normally the distinction between jarosite and natrijarosite is hardly doable, but there are visible differences. Natrijarosite is more platy and disc-like, and we'll come to that later. I found this one and the next one, the Sunion dumps in 2005, but most probably, I found out the dumps, but most probably the location of origin is the Sunion mine number 19, which is known as the Chloride mine. So you see the Cl in the formula. It is in any case confirmed to be catalysite. And the same goes for the next one. This comes from the same rock piece. It's accompanied by a little malachite. And also this is also catalysite. This is a new one, Katarina-Poulosite. At first I thought that this was the first name and the last name of the person that this is called, is named after a professor, and his last name is Katarinopoulos. Katarinopoulos, I think it's in Greek. It's an analyzed specimen. I obtained it in 2019 from one of my Greek friends. And the Esperanza is the one and only place where it is found until now. And it's no more than just a few years ago. It was first described in 2018 in the European Journal of Mineralogy. It's a soft and sensitive, very sensitive ammonium zinc sulfate. So the NH4 in the formula is a very special feature. This is not analyzed, but the visible crystal shape makes it unmistakably ctenosite. Good visible crystals are not too abundant. So I'm glad I found this. Well, I have to go a bit fast, I think. Lavendulin, there's a slight chance that this is not lavendulin, but lemanskieite. Lemanskieite is a polymorph of lavendulin, but with the only difference being the water content. Lemanskieite is 3 H2O and instead of 5 in lavendulin. And lemanskieite also occurs in the hilarion mine, but it's much rarer. So I probably that this is lavendulin. just like the next one. This too. Malachite is common, of course, and the Christiana is almost always closely together with azurite, but on the dumps on Sunium, malachite as such can be found in very fine specimens, most of the time in a fluoride matrix, as you can see here, or with quartz also. And it's all, if you find good crystals, they're all spiky. See this one, and the next. These are, well, some very nice looking crystal groups, sprays. Marcasite is embedded in quartz here. This is an own find from 2017. And when I was preparing this presentation, I didn't even know that I had it. So this photo is from last week. These are quite well developed crystals. Mimetite occurs in several of the mines, but the best crystals I found in 2017 on the dumps of Sunium, almost at the end of our trip that day. I just sat there resting somewhere, walking a bit around, waiting for my mates to return. And literally, I stumbled on a piece of rock of some 30 centimeters that was completely filled with these magnificent mimetites. And it really made my day. Jacques Feyer was there with me that day, so he'll surely remember that. So it's a pity that he's not here to see them now. But he was there. Well, it was a great find. The next slide is a detail from the same rock piece. So these are from the Sunium dumps. And then I have two specimens come from Plaka. I didn't find these myself, I got them from Vasilis. And these are very abundant, deep in Plaka mines. But it's also fragile. I didn't, these are scattered on rock pieces in numerous examples, this one is better protected because it's lying a bit deeper, but it's the same material from the same environment, also from Plaka. Natriarosite, I mentioned it before, it's the only chemical difference between with yarosite is the potassium in yarosite versus the sodium in natriarosite. In most places you can tell the visual differences, but this is because of the platy outlook. This is most probably natriarosite. Olivenite comes in many shapes and sizes, from individual crystals of a few millimeters of length to sprays of needle-like crystals to complex masses. Of course, it's often associated with other arsenics, which makes the determination a little tricky sometimes, but mostly olivenite is well recognizable. This one's from the dumps. The next one also, this one is another green color. And the reason might be that it's the zinc-bearing variety, but I didn't have that analyzed. While the other one, the next one, on the other hand, is analyzed, and this is really zinc olivenite. And that is seen as a separate species. Hard to see here, but the small light green square-looking crystals are pharmacosiderite, and the red bulbs are very probably arseniosiderite. From the dumps, I found it in 19, I think. Then phosphonite from, once again, Venus Michaeli, in the same spot where I found this the sericite. It's not analyzed, but the crystal shape is 100% phosgenite. Then picopharmacoloid only occurs in arsenic-rich environments. Arsenic-rich environments is well, it looks attractive. It always forms sprays of lead-like or needle-like crystals. Though reported also from the Camarita mines, the best ones are found in Plaka. And I got this also from Basilis. This is one piece, one sample from the rock piece, and the next slide is the other one from the same piece. Rosacite, I give you 3 photos of different rosacites. Keep an eye on the formula. The first one you could say is a regular rosacite, where Cu copper is leading and the color is bright blue. And this one is much greener, and that's the result of nickel. And so it's nickel-bearing rosacite, and Ni is embedded in the formula. And then you can expect that it comes from the Kilometer 3 mine, with its many other nickel minerals like annabergite and gaspionite. For some reason, the name nickel rosacite is never used, whereas zinc rosacite, as depicted on the next slide, is an acknowledged mineral. For some reason, I don't know why, but this is nickel rosacite, where the zinc, Zn, is leading, so therefore it's the first thing mentioned in the formula. And the pale blue color that even can be completely white is not conclusive, but very indicative. And here it's accompanied by malachite and halloisite, and it's a combination that often occurs in the Sunion area. Serpyrite is from the type locality of this one, Serpyri mine. It always forms straight and separate crystals, and that helps to distinguish it from other blue species like Deverley that look more bended, fluffy, or hairy. I bought this one in 2005 in a shop in Lavrion. The photo is a 5mm section of a specimen of about 8 centimeters. So this is what you can call rich. And I don't know what the white belt is. Couldn't tell. This is a find on the dumps. The name of the species is in honor of Jean-Baptiste Serpyri, who was once the owner of the 2 mines, the Jean-Baptiste mine and the Serpyri mine, and the far most important man in the mining period around 1875. And, on the town square in Lavrion, there stands his statue. So I have a few photos of that, but not here. Relatively recently discovered around 2017, it's scleroscite analyzed, of course, and it's always in the gypsum matrix. And I have one sample of about 6 centimeters that I leave alone as much as possible because it's very brittle and very sensitive. And as far as I know, this is a one-time find, but I'm not sure. But that's what I think. I think this is a one-time find. Yeah. Smithsonite, quite widespread, especially abundant in the southern parts of Sunion. The dumps are still rich in smithsonite. I found this in 19. And so, although much of it is weathered or broken, finding good crystals is still possible, like these white ones, and also this green tarnished smithsonite. It's the inclusion, as far as I know, of copper minerals, so not as copper itself. There's no copper-bearing smithsonite. It doesn't exist officially. This also in Mindat is just called smithsonite and nothing more. This is the most doubtful thing I have. to be frank, is not analyzed. Strassenurite is likely because the color is okay. The irregular shaped crystals are a clue, and the association with the Lavrion is a strong clue also. But there's always a chance that this turns out to be, if you analyze it properly, that it's olivenite. This chance is always present. The last one, wolfenite plaque is the place to be if you want wolfenite. It's still found there in fine qualities and fair amounts. And I have a lot of samples in quality like this one. One of the finds of 2019. This is a very nice specimen that concludes the series. Just a few things more. If you would like to obtain a great book, I can only recommend this one here. It's quite new, from 2018 or 19, somewhere. It's very extensive, and it helps a lot in studying and determining, and I use it all the time. But you have to read German. It's in German, so if you can read that, it's a great book. And to conclude, this is what sheer happiness is always the result. It's how I feel every day when in Lavrion, just after a great find of konicalcite in kilometer 3 in 2019. So I always enjoy myself very much there. Thanks. That was about it.
Thanks, Henk. That was excellent.
Very good. Very good.
I have one question for you.
Quite marvelous.
The elongated konicalcite, that looked like it might have been konicalcite that had grown on maybe a prismatic mineral, maybe malachite.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. It could be,
still be balls, but overgrown.
It's possible.
I've also seen konicalcite coatings on other crystal forms. I've got some really neat little fluorite cubes that are coated with konicalcite, so it's square. So it'll do that.
Konicalcite is, especially there, it's very abundant. So you get it in all forms and sizes. And in all the mines, as far as I know, it's always accompanied by other complicated arsenides. It's olivenite, zinc, olivenite, adamite, you name it. And they're all grown on each other, through each other, with each other. So it's in most samples, it's very hard to keep apart. But it's just not doable to let them all be analyzed. It costs you a house, I think. So in some cases, you just have to take the chance that it's something else.
One more question from me too, Henk.
Yeah.
Do you know what the current discussion is about the Cuprian adamites and whether or not they're actually zinc olivenite?
Zinc olivenite, I know. Yeah. Yeah, I know. But there was a time, a moment actually, that I thought that the discussion was that all Cuprian adamite was analyzed or was thought to be zinc olivenite. But now it turns out that it's not everywhere the case, it's just in some locations. But which one? I don't know. So, I'm not sure that that's the case in Greece. I don't think so. But
yeah, I thought I heard or saw when the initial discussion was around the Sumeb ones in one of the Mindat discussions. It mentioned Greece as being zinc olivenite as well, but that was early on.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Kathy, you had a question about how does Henk take the photos?
Yeah, you want to lecture on that?
Next 2 weeks.
Okay,
Fabulous.
in short, I have a Canon 90D camera and two lenses. The Laowa. I have two Laowa lenses, the Chinese lens. They are relatively new. I'm very satisfied with those. The one is 100 millimeters and has a maximum magnification of two times. And the other one is 25 millimeters and has a magnification from 2.5 to 5 times. And if you extend that even with an extension tool, then you have about 7 times magnification. And that's enough to do. Well, yesterday I did a caledonite crystal up to from 0.2 of a millimeter. And if you enlarge that, it gets a little blur, but you can make decent pictures with it. That whole thing is mounted on a V macro stack rail, and so that I use that for taking the pictures. Normally you take somewhere around 100 pictures per object, depending on how large it is. And then the rendering takes place by Helicon focus. The whole equipment is controlled by Helicon remote. The rendering through Helicon focus, and the after service, you can say, by Photoshop Fix and Lightroom. And Photoshop Fix is a program that only works on the iPad and nothing else, only just on an iPad. But has the greatest advantage that you can use your Apple Pencil to work away all the dots that is dust on the photo. On the photograph, you see everything. So you have to, luckily I can do that on my iPad, so I do that in the evenings when looking at TV or drinking coffee or whatever. And all the dots, all the little specks that you see on every picture, you can work on easily, right? By just tipping them. It's the only program I know that does that, but it's only possible with the iPad. And
you can do it in Photoshop as well, Henk.
Yeah, I know, but it's a very complicated issue.
No, it's quite easy, that one is. It's just one of the little filters you can click on and just make
I tried that. I tried that before this. Yeah. This is just a bit easy.
Yeah.
So
if
that's
you
what
try,
I do. Sorry?
Not Photoshop, but Lightroom. Easy tool for removing those. You can actually copy them and save the map, and then you can remove all the dots at the same time from every photo with one click.
Okay.
You can also do that now in Helicon itself, Henk. You can actually set a dust map.
Okay.
It's it's actually really good. Saves a hell of a lot of time.
It's easier than Lightroom, which I used to do.
Sorry, Bruce.
Yeah, you're right. It's easier. The new Helicon feature works better than the Lightroom one, where you have to do it on each frame. The Helicon one will apply it to the frames for you. You skip a step there.
Yep. Well, I have to look into that.
Yeah,
this is just a routine, huh? That's all.
Yeah,
it's a routine. Yeah, sure. You do what you think that you should do. But okay, there's always a better way to go to Rome. Huh? You know that.
Yeah. What you have to do, Henk, is take a photograph with no mineral in view, and it picks up all of the spots, the dust spots or broken pixels or whatever. And then you just include that when you're doing your stack. So it's actually quite easy.
Okay. So I have to, it's a new lesson. I have to check that out.
That was one of the bonuses of moving away from Zareen.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, well, okay. I'll dive into that, of course, because now every photo takes me half an hour of tipping.
Yep.
Spec by spec.
Yeah,
so
save time when you can.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Henk? No? Okay. Well, we might wrap that up then and see you all again in 2 weeks' time.
At some other occasion, I could do the same, but then for the Lavrion slides.
Yes. Yeah.
And I will have further photos from those also. And
Just making
there's
a note.
marvelous, marvelous stuff. If you only look at the fluorides in the
Actually, Henk,
Henk,
I do have a question for you, Henk, actually.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Okay.
What's the significance of the fig trees on most of the mine entrances in Lavrion?
The what?
Fig trees. There seems to be a lot of fig trees at mine entrances.
Yeah, that's for shadow.
Right.
You need shadow. I should know. I don't know. Beats me. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Secret of imagination.
Fig tree. I didn't even know that there were fig trees.
If you go onto Mindat, and you follow the site photos on Mindat of lot of the Lavrion sites, that nearly all of them have got fig trees in the entrance.
Okay. Thank you. I learned something new again. Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, we'll finish up now and see you all in 2 weeks' time.
See you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Henk.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
See you, man.
Right.
Bye bye.
See you next time.